What's up guys, Trav White here. Welcome back to the channel. If you like the science of style and grooming, please smash that like and subscribe button. Okay, so here's the deal. I don't always get everything right. I mean, I do a lot of the time, like 99.6574% of the time, but not every time. And part of building and keeping your trust on this channel is admitting when I'm wrong.
I'm stupid, you're smart. I was wrong, you were right. You're the best, I'm the worst. You're very good looking, I'm not attractive.
All right, as long as you're willing to admit that now.
Or when I've changed my mind due to new information. And that's what I want to do here today, because I don't want there to be this stigma on YouTube or in the hair community that's like, whatever Trav White says is gospel for hair and we need to listen to that. In fact, I encourage you to question everything that I say, because that's how we get to the truth. Because I'm not interested in necessarily being right or wrong. I'm interested in what is fact and fiction. And yes, I do a bunch of research for videos in search of the facts, but that doesn't mean that I interpret everything correctly, or I can also make an incorrect assumption from reading results of a study. And it's for this reason that I include a disclaimer in all of my video descriptions that say, I'm not a professional cosmetic chemist, I'm not a professional stylist or a doctor, and I do my best to quote the science, but that doesn't mean that everything I say is 100% error-free. Right? So I just want to make this video to actually go over 3 tips that I've given in the past, which I've either changed my mind about due to new research that's come out, or I've discovered from just doing more and more research that what I said before was actually either half true or I was just wrong. Having said all of that, let's get into it. Maybe without the voice crack. Let me try that again. Let's get into it.
Oh, yeah.
So the way that this is gonna work is I'm going to play the clip where I actually gave the tip in a previous video, and then I'm gonna point out the nuance or the incorrect information, and then I'm gonna record my response on what it actually should be. So the first thing that I've changed my mind about is actually sulfates. I used to be 100% anti-sulfate, and I'll play the clip now. Using the wrong shampoo, and this is shampoo that contains sulfates. So a common sulfate found in shampoos to give it that lather and those suds that everyone loves is called sodium dodecyl sulfate. Let's just call it SDS. So in March of 2005, a study was done in Brazil. The study found that under friction, hair treated with SDS solution loses 7 times more protein than just using water. And protein loss increased as the temperature of the water increased as well. Yeah, so I read that study that sodium dodecyl sulfate, which is basically identical to SLS or SLES, strips protein from your hair, can cause scalp irritation, and I was like, avoid sulfates. But today, I'm not as anti-sulfate as I used to be, because what I didn't take into account is that when it comes to cosmetic science and formulations, it's the entire formula that matters. It's not just one ingredient. And the percentages of each ingredient matter. And then the surrounding ingredients matter, because that can strengthen or weaken the effects of another ingredient. So you can't just look at the ingredients on the back, see sodium lauryl sulfate, and be like, nope, can't use it. You have to take all of these other things into account. That's what a lot of professional hair brands do when they formulate things with sulfates in them. You also have to take into account your hair type, because if you have really greasy hair all the time, a sulfate clarifying shampoo is a great tool for you. It'll help fight that oil and grease and that buildup that your sulfate-free shampoo might not be able to do. If you have dry hair, you should probably avoid the clarifying shampoos. And if you have a balanced scalp like I do, a sulfate clarifying wash every 3 to 4 weeks can be an amazing way to hit the reset button for the month and then go sulfate free the rest of the time. So you might be sitting there like, well, I don't even know what my hair type is. So I would recommend downloading my hair type PDF, which I'll link to in the description, and also watching my ultimate guide to men's hair type video. And then the next step is gonna be finding the right shampoo and conditioner for you. And this is the main reason that I love today's paid sponsor, Formulate, because they understand the nuance of hair. They know that hair is not one size fits all for everyone. So they have you take a hair type quiz, and then they connect you directly with the chemist to find a unique shampoo and conditioner that works specifically for you and your hair. And I think that this is the future of the industry, because this company has basically said, okay, enough with the overgeneralization of products, let's solve for each individual. Because if you look at mass market shampoos and conditioners, they have to appeal to the masses. It's the only way they're gonna sell their product. So they have to formulate in extremes. So they load up their formula with crazy cleansing power, and then basically strip the crap out of everything in your hair, and then load up the conditioner with crazy conditioning power. So that's why these mass market brands are not the best answer, because they work in extremes to appeal to the masses. Formulate takes the approach of, well, let's appeal to the individual. You might not need that much cleansing power. You might not need that much conditioner. You might have curly hair. You might have hair loss, and you want to help try to prevent that or fight it. You know, let's work with you individually and find a solution. So they will go back and forth with you until they've tweaked a formula that works specifically for you and your needs. They also have an amazing app that you can use to see the ingredients that they put in your formula, and then you can follow up with the chemist. You know, if you need to make any changes or any updates, or you don't like the scent, or you want to switch something, you know, then you can just reach out on the app. So they're very responsive and helpful when it comes to answering any questions or figuring out what changes you need to make or the best formula for you. So guys, go check out Formulate if you're shopping for shampoo and conditioner and it's a headache for you. I'll link to them in the description. I use them, they're amazing. Go check them out. Okay, let's move on to the next mistake I made, and this one was in my beard growth video. I made the mistake of recommending DHT blockers for your beard, so I'll play that clip now. This is my minoxidil-free beard growth serum that I created. Essentially, this is the recipe. It's 2 tablespoons of cold-pressed organic pumpkin seed oil. I chose pumpkin seed oil as my carrier oil because I did read a few studies about it having hair growth effectiveness in mice, and so I figured, hey, it's worth trying. And then for the next 3 oils, I added peppermint oil, rosemary oil, and lavender oil. So several studies that I had read found that pumpkin seed oil, lavender oil, and rosemary oil had really good results in scalp hair regrowth because of their DHT blockers. And the mistake I made was making an assumption that since this is good for scalp regrowth, it must be good for beard regrowth. Guys, never assume, just don't, because you'll make an ass of you and me. Get it? Ass. You, me, assume. Okay, moving on. So that's what I did. I assumed that good for scalp hair equals good for beard hair. But then I started doing some further research and I discovered something called the Androgen Paradox. So this is from a 2013 study in the Experimental Journal of Dermatology. And what it found was, and I'm gonna quote here, androgens stimulate beard growth but suppress hair growth in males with androgenetic alopecia. So this condition is known as androgen paradox. To regulate hair growth, androgens stimulate production of the IGF-1 growth factor as positive mediators from the beard dermal papillae cells, but are negative mediators from a balding dermal papillae cell. So the assumption I made was actually the exact opposite of what you're supposed to do. So the smart thing to do is, if you want to still stay minoxidil free, is to continue using the derma roller like I mentioned in that video, but instead of the DHT blocking carrier oils and essential oils like pumpkin seed, lavender, and rosemary, you know, use a neutral carrier oil like jojoba or castor oil, and mix in peppermint oil and use that as your serum. So peppermint oil is not a DHT blocker, and neither is jojoba or castor oil. The other option would be, only if you're comfortable with it, is to go ahead and use minoxidil, as that has been proven to stimulate beard growth without any regression of hair growth once you stop using it. Just beware of the potential side effects, right? They're very minimal in most men, but some men do get them. Especially if you use it on the same day as derma rolling, it could get into your bloodstream a little bit easier. So again, guys, that error, that one's on me. I apologize, I was wrong. This is me correcting that mistake right now. So the third tip I gave was not necessarily a mistake, because when I talked about it, the science at the time was sort of an agreed upon conclusion, but there has been new data that has emerged that caused me to change my mind about this. And that is that stress does not cause the graying of hair. So let me play that clip right now. The myth is that stress causes your hair to gray prematurely. So this is actually false. And in fact, hair doesn't actually turn different colors when it's in the middle of the anagen, catagen, telogen phases of growth. If it starts growing as one color, it's going to stay that color until the telogen phase finishes and the hair shaft falls out. Then when a new hair grows and takes the place of its previous follicle buddy, it might have, less melanin, and this will depend on your age and genetics. So that original tip that I found was from health.harvard.edu in June of 2020, so quite recent actually, and from a reputable source. And it stated that in humans, most gray hair is not related to stress. In fact, hair doesn't actually turn gray at all. That once a hair follicle produces hair, that is to say, once it starts its anagen phase of growth with a color intact, that color is then like set in stone. So if a single strand of hair starts out brown or red or black or blonde, it's never going to change its color unless you color your hair, and that your hair follicles will produce less color as they age, so that aging is the main cause. But a new study published in eLife Journal in June of 2021, so almost exactly a year later, found out that not only does stress play a key role in decreased pigmentation in your hair follicles, but that it can also be reversed through the reduction of stress. And here's what's crazy is that they found an individual's hair went from basically fully colored, not dyed, but like their original color, turned white, this is from the perceived stress, and then reversed back to full color from the reduction of stress. And this happened all in a single anagen growth phase, which is the exact opposite from what the Harvard article stated. So it's just crazy that the science keeps coming out and it's all this new data emerging. And these changes occur during stressful periods and then reversals of the stress during relaxing periods. So of course, the main cause of gray hair is still aging. Your hair will turn gray eventually. But if you're young and notice premature graying, it could be time to take a vacation. That's all I have in this video, guys. Again, this is me correcting my mistakes. I'm not perfect, I'm human. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.